Hello and welcome back. So in today's video, actually it's a two-part video, I'm going to talk about 8 ways to devalue and destroy a narcissist, okay? So we all know that narcissists need one thing more than anything else in life, and that thing is narcissistic supply. But what are the best ways to devalue and destroy a narcissist so that you can reclaim your power? So in this two-part series, I'm going to share with you 8 little-known but powerful secrets to devalue and destroy a narcissist, or indeed any toxic person who comes your way. These could obviously be flying monkeys because they can usually be found hovering around narcissists. Now, for this video today, at the end of this video, you'll have 3 new ways of devaluing and destroying the narcissist, or the toxic person, or the flying monkeys in your life, without actually having to do or say very much at all. And then in part 2 of this series, which will be coming up after this one, I'm going to share 5 more tips that go a bit deeper into how you can get to a place of inner harmony. Now, I know that my viewers like my videos to be short, filled with lots of practical and easy to digest tips and strategies and information. So I don't go into complicated psychology. So I want to keep things short and simple so that everything I share hits home really quickly for you. But I definitely recommend you watch both videos in this two-parter for maximum impact. So right now I'm going to kick off with the 3 big guns that you can start using right now to free yourself from the emotional bondage of narcissistic abuse or the hassles you're experiencing from toxic people. You have way more power than you think. So definitely watch till the end so that you'll understand exactly where your power lies when it comes to narcissistic behavior and abuse. Now, before I get to those, I want to issue a warning. You can only use these tips if you know that the narcissist in question is not capable of or prone to violence. Because what I would say is don't ever antagonize a narcissist if you know that they can get physically violent. And if you're in such a relationship now and you're watching this, then I implore you to please, please, please find a way out. And there always is a way out. You do not deserve to be trapped in an abusive, violent relationship. So however you can, if you have no idea, do something, contact a local authority, confide in a friend, contact an organization that helps people in domestic violence situations. And also you can connect with me. I have several Facebook support groups. I put the links below the video here. So get help. Don't stay in this relationship. Don't allow yourself to be physically abused and harmed. Okay, so the tips that I'm sharing here are strictly for the non-violent narcissists, and of course there are plenty of those out there. So these tips are relevant if you've broken up with a narcissist, but they keep interfering in your life, either by trying to hoover you up or because you have children together and you have to have some contact with them, or maybe you're still living with them, you can't break away right now, or maybe you have a joint business together. So whatever the reason, they're still involved in your life, even though you effectively the relationship is over, but they're still involved and they're still hassling you. So tip number 1 is don't engage or fight back. Narcissists need chaos, drama, attention, and they don't care what form it comes in. And it can be both positive and negative. So if you're responding to them or fighting back, trying to justify your position, you're still giving them the attention that they crave. And this applies even if they've started a smear campaign. Actually, it applies especially if they've started a smear campaign against you. Now, I understand it's very easy for you to feel and behave like a victim, especially if you're in the eye of the storm of a vicious smear campaign. You feel helpless and maybe you're desperate and you want to plead with them to listen, to hear you, just to stop what they're doing. But when you do that, you give the narcissist all the more power because they feed on the emotional suffering and anger that they've created in you. Do you see that? Does that make sense? If you're watching, please comment. It's absolutely vital that you understand this if you are to take your power back and stop living in fear. Stop walking on eggshells and jumping through the proverbial hoops to try to please them in whatever way you can. Please do me one huge, huge favor. Do yourself one massive, massive favor and just stop. Because if you refuse to engage with their BS, they have no recourse. If everything they say falls on deaf ears and you simply don't react, there's nowhere for them to go. They'll back off and they'll look for fuel elsewhere. Trust me on this. If they've initiated a smear campaign, it will die of natural causes if you're not there to keep adding fuel to the flames. And one quick thing I want to mention here is that when it comes to smear campaigns, your real family and friends won't believe it. So you don't want to give any thought to anyone out there who does. Because in this case, ignorance very often is much more blissful. So blocking people and doing as much as you can to keep the contact that you have to an absolute minimum is really, really vital. Now, you might be asking yourself, but why should you stop? You might be wondering why you should swallow your pride and let them get away with whatever it is they're trying to do to you. So I'm going to tell you why, okay? And it's quite simple, because you can never reason with an Narc. You can never get them to see logic. They operate and think on a different planet to you. Planet self, we could call it. So you're actually going to be wasting your precious time and energy trying. And all this does is emotionally exhaust you. And at the end of every very long day, you will not have achieved anything in trying, because when it comes to tenacity and self-centeredness, narcissists wrote the book on it, and they will never, ever tire of trying to wear you down as long as you're giving them the fuel, which is the reaction. But by taking your energy out of the game, you win and you leave them powerless. Now, that's a surefire way to destroy and devalue a narcissist. Now, you've probably heard of grey rock, but if not, it's an invaluable technique to know if you are still living with a narcissist or you're having to see them at work every day. And I know there are many people out there who are in these situations. So learning the tricks of the grey rock trade can be a lifesaver for you. And I've actually got a whole video about that. So if you don't know about the grey rock and you're not that familiar, then definitely check that video out, okay? Now, if you are familiar with grey rock and you've used it successfully, then why not comment below? Let me know how you get on with it, how you got on with grey rock. Also, if you're enjoying this video and finding it useful, then please do like, comment, subscribe, okay? So the next tip, it's in a similar vein to not engaging or trying to fight back. But tip number two is don't try to defend yourself or get your point of view across. Because frankly, you might as well whistle in the wind as try to do this with a narcissist. When you're wronged in some way, it's human nature to want to defend yourself and set the record straight. Of course it is, I get that. But a narcissist is not interested in your point of view, your ideas, or your truth. they will just twist and turn every single thing that you say and fire it back at you, dressed up in blame and making it all your fault. And they are masters at this. And of course, when you continue trying to get your point across, they'll switch into word salading so that they're soon talking in circles that make absolutely no sense whatsoever to you. Have you experienced that? Comment below if you have. I know that most of the people that I've talked with and most of my clients who've been with narcissists and are trying to recover have experienced this, okay? Now, another thing that narcissists will do when you're frantically trying to point out logic and truth is they'll gaslight you. They'll tell you that they never said that, or they didn't mean it that way, and that you're twisting their words. And that's, of course, called projection, because it's what they do all the time. They accuse you of doing everything that they're doing. They're masters at that too. So the next time they come out with some outrageous BS about what went down, try not to defend yourself. Just let it go completely over your head. Know it for what it is. It's outrageous narcissistic bullshit. Let's call a spade here, okay? So just accept that's what it is and let it go above your head. But I know you might be asking now, how do you do that? And it takes practice. The simple answer is you just have to train yourself in the subtle art of non-reaction. Now, it does take a bit of practice, but once you get the hang of it, you'll be amazed at how effective it is in reducing the narc attacks on you. Now, it's also along the lines of grey rock, but you're aiming to be a bit smarter than the narcissist here. So what practical things can you do instead? So let me give you a few ideas. When they're coming out with all this utter rubbish, you give them a blank stare, or you walk away, or you say something like, "Oh, that's not how I remember it." Or you say something like, "Okay, if you say so," or "That's interesting." Or you can say, "Oh, well, you're entitled to your opinion." Or you could say, "Well, it's your choice to think whatever." Or you can say, "Okay, let's agree to disagree," and then walk away from them and don't take anything they say or do personally. Now, this is one of the weirdest things that I regularly say to my clients to help them understand this at a different level, come at it from a different perspective. It's not about you. Now, I know that sounds really counterintuitive because, of course, it's about you. But if you look beyond what the narcissist presents, it's all about them. Their need to control, their need to insult, their need to hurt you because of their own massive feelings of inadequacy. That's how they feel good about themselves, by putting you down, by controlling you, by making you feel bad. Can you step back and see how pathetic that is? They have no real sense of themselves, so they have to try and put everyone else down to make themselves feel good. Can you float back and see how pathetic that is? So when you can see that, when you realize that it really is not about you, it's not personal to you, it's all about what's going on for them. You just happen to be the person they targeted, and they did that because you're a good, decent person. But they knew they could manipulate you. They could manipulate all those good qualities. They knew they could take advantage of all your good qualities. So when you step back and see that, realize you're the good person here, and none of this nonsense has got anything to do with the reality of who you are. It's got absolutely nothing to do with the reality of who you are at all. Does that make sense to you? Tell me in the comments below if that resonates and that makes sense with you. Because when it does, you really get a massive internal shift. And these big internal shifts are what are going to make the big difference for you in terms of your healing. So if you can understand that last point, then it leads me nicely into the next tip. And all of these tips are leading you in the right direction. So the next tip is that you want to be indifferent to everything and anything to do with that narcissist. Decide that you are absolutely not interested in anything that is going on in their lives. You're not interested in anything they have to say, because you know now that you can't trust or believe a word out of their mouths, and that whatever they say is completely and utterly irrelevant to you. Now, this is based on your solid knowledge of who they really are, and that the person you loved or thought you loved was a complete fake. Or in the case of a toxic person or a flying monkey, you apply that same knowledge. This person is not good, they're not nice, they're not kind, they're not sincere, they're not genuine, they're not honest. This person does not have your best interests at heart. So what this person thinks, wants, or needs to be of absolutely no interest to you whatsoever. If you can emotionally detach yourself from them in this way, you will completely reclaim your power, because then they will have absolutely no power over you whatsoever. They cannot hurt, control, or upset you if you don't give a flying fig what they think. Now, that being said, this particular strategy and thought process won't work if you're still trauma bonded and you think you're still in love with them. The trauma bond makes that impossible, and you need to work on that before you can reach this blissful state of indifference. And I do have a video, if not, I've got one or two where I talk about trauma bonding. So definitely check out the videos on trauma bonding if this applies to you, so that you can start understanding that and you can start breaking free of the trauma bonding. Okay. Now, I know that though there are many people who are still trauma bonded, there are absolutely tons of people out there who are not trauma bonded, and they actually can't stand the next or the parent, sibling, boss, or whatever, but they still let this person's actions dictate how they feel, how their day goes, and how they are feeling generally, and how their day goes because of that. They allow themselves to feel bad, to feel confused or upset or angry or whatever, all because of what the narc has said or done. So just imagine now that you could take a big scissors and just slice through the connection, slice through the energetic connection, holding you in bondage to them. Imagine you could just massive snip, disconnect. How would that feel? Give that a go. See if that works for you, because actually it's quite a powerful technique. You must remember that your worth and value has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with that person unless you let it. So you can make this hugely valuable decision for yourself to cut the emotional cord and just say, to hell with them, be gone, and be totally indifferent to them. You'll be absolutely amazed at the difference you'll feel if you can do that. Now, if you don't think that's possible and you don't think you can manage to do that on your own, then reach out and get help. Work with a therapist. Come and connect with me. Let's talk if you need help, because I can help you to make this a reality for yourself. Now, that's it for this video. So what I'm going to do is recommend that you check out the next video, where I'm going to cover part 2 of how to devalue and destroy a narcissist. And as soon as it's up, it will show up here on one of the end screens, okay? And I definitely recommend that you check out the Grey Rock video. Thank you very much indeed for watching and for joining me today. And I will see you in the next video very soon. Bye for now.